All right, so talk me through your last fight and your game plan coming into the fight and how you feel about your overall performance.
Yeah, so going into the fight, when the fight got announced, I knew that wrestling was going to be really important. I knew Joey after his long layoff was going to wrestle from the get go. So I trained with lots of guys, even Dan Hendo. He kind of came out of retirement and he was in the gym training with me.
Hmm.
Tarek Safadine, and then I was seeing Jesse Taylor.
Yeah.
Um, some just good solid wrestlers to like get me ready for the fight. And then as far as preparation went great, but as far as my performance, I would have gave myself probably a grade, probably like a B minus. Um, I was able to to I guess nullify the takedown.
Yeah.
His takedowns weren't very effective, and then even if he was able to get me down, he could never get me flat to the mat. Like my back was always up against the cage, and I was always working to get back up to my feet. So I thought I did a good job in that regard. I just wish I would have been able to break away more, like, and actually create the separation and then be able to strike where I could have finished the fight a little
Mhm.
bit better. But you live and you learn, and that's what we're working on now. So yeah.
What originally got you started in the world of MMA?
So, okay, this is a good question. So, I watched my first UFC fight. It was Chuck and Tito, and I was probably like 9 years old. I was living in Jacksonville, North Carolina. That's where I'm from. And I was a kid, and I was just kind of like, "Whoa, this is crazy!" Like all the parents had the pay per view on and had a party at somebody's house, and I saw it. And then I started wrestling in middle school, and then I wrestled throughout high school, and then I realized that I wasn't gonna be able to wrestle in college. And so once I had that like realization, I was like, you know what, I want to give this a try because I had been training for so long. I've seen it, been in fights myself. I'm like, hey, let's give it a shot, you know. And sure enough, I joined the arena gym in San Diego, and I had my first fight when I was still in high school. So,
Mhm.
and the rest was history.
What do you consider your greatest strengths in the octagon to be?
I would say, um, I would just say the mental side of it. Nothing, nothing really bothers me in there. Felt like I've seen everything. Um, as the fight gets more violent and intense, I just kind of raise the bar, and
Mhm.
I feel like that's one aspect, the psychology of fighting that I'm just I've definitely like kind of the last couple years have found myself as far as like being able to perform under the lights. It doesn't bother me at all. And that part I feel like
That's
I
great.
have it more locked down, figured out than anybody else.
Mhm. That's actually pretty good because some people, they perform very well in the gym, but then when it gets under the bright lights, they freeze up. So,
Yeah, I used to, and it's funny because I used to be that guy.
mhm.
You know, when I was like 18, probably from 18 to 23, that was like I would do really good in the gym, and then my fights I would just like go out there and be a completely different person. You're like,
Mhm.
what the heck? Um, and then I really found kind of my groove towards like my probably my last couple amateur fights that I had. And I was like, okay, now I know how to do this, and I've only gotten better and better since going pro. So
Mhm. How do you prepare for a big pro fight, both physically and mentally?
yeah, physically, the physical part is really one of the only things you can control. And that's how I look at it. Um, with that being said, if that's one of the only things you can control, you should be in the best shape physically possible. So I'm always in really good shape. Even right now, I don't have a fight coming up, and I'm in really good shape. I could take a fight next week if it's
Mhm.
offered. So I always just stay in really good shape. I try to hit the gym, even if I don't have anything coming up. And then psychologically and mentally, um, the only time I really get nervous is like when the fight's getting announced. Like when
Mhm.
they're like, "Hey, here you go. Who signed the contract?" Once that's done, Dude, it's like the flip of a switch, man, and it just changes. You know,
Mhm.
my whole mental game, my whole brain changes over, and then it's time to get ready for battle. You know, and
Mhm.
I love being in that environment because I'm just so in the moment. Each day, I'm like so in the moment. I got to do this, this, and this,
Mhm.
and I'm just way more efficient throughout the day. I'm like more, I get more done
Yeah.
when I'm training and getting ready for something.
You talked about your mentality changing. Are you the kind of guy to, view your opponent as just business, or do you want to like really hurt him?
I definitely want to hurt them. It's kind of weird. A lot of people after their fights, they always like they're all buddy buddy, shake hands
Hmm.
with the guy. We're all friends afterwards. Um, to me, it's like a little more than that. Um, I don't have anything necessarily against them, but they did sign the dotted line, and they are trying to, in the end, kind of crush your dream.
Yeah.
And this is just a we're all trying to get to a spot. You know, I'm trying to be the best in the world. That's my goal. If the guy signs dotted line and he's across the cage from me, he thinks he's better than me, and he thinks he wants to take that away from me. And that's just kind of how I look at it. Because that's the truth.
Hmm.
I think some people want to make it less than what it really is, and to me, it's not like that. It's everything to me. So, um, yeah, I'm trying to hurt you when I get in there.
Hmm. What are some of the biggest challenges you faced in your career so far?
Ooh, let's see. Biggest challenges probably um in the beginning it was probably just long time like there was long periods of time in between fights where I just couldn't get a fight. You know,
Hmm.
I've seen guys underneath these big management teams getting big fights and just kind of moving up very quickly, and I'm kind of like, what the heck is going on? And so that was really frustrating to me because I just work. I feel like I work my ass off, and for people, I see people going it faster than I am. I'm like, dude, what are they doing that I'm not? And then I got tapped in with the right people with Maximilian, and Dan Henderson's gym.
Hmm.
And once I got there, I felt good. And once I got fights, and I was like, I really need to stay active because I was never really active in my career, like all the way up until I was a pro. Um, so I was like, that's my ultimate goal is just to stay active because that's when I know I'll be at my best. I'll perform my best. So, yeah, that was probably the biggest one is just long gaps in between fights.
Hmm. Do you feel like when you came back from those long gaps, you had ring rust? Well, like, what is your opinion on ring rust? Is it real or not?
Um, I would say, I think the more experienced you are, the less it's really a thing.
Hmm.
Um, I was like an amateur or low level pro at the time, so I think it probably did affect me. That's probably why I was like, that's kind of how I was like, I want to be more active because I feel like if I fight more back to back, the better my performances will be. But I think like for guys who have, fought at a high level and fought in the UFC, it's like, bro, they've been there,
Hmm.
done that, they've tasted it, they know what it's like. I don't think it necessarily is real once you get to a certain point. Um, at that point, it's just all mental.
Yeah. Can you tell us about a particular fight that you found really memorable?
Yeah, let's see. That I found really memorable. The last one was pretty good, but I would say, man, I fought back in what was it last October in Maryland. That's where a lot of my family's from. I'm from North Carolina, but my dad's side of the family, huge, huge, huge family, all on the East Coast. My dad lives in Maryland. Shout out my dad. Um, got my cousins, my uncle Steve, Aunt Kim. They all live in New Jersey. My grandma, I call her Palma, she lives in Delaware. So I took a fight out in Maryland for Stellar Fights, is the fight promotion, and it was at the Wacomico Center in Salisbury, which um, we have a family cottage that's pretty close to Salisbury, so it's perfect. Everybody was just, before the fight, we all stayed at the cottage. I flew out, stayed there. I got the fight in front of all my East Coast family for the first time, and I did it really good. I ended up getting the win over Kenny Gaudreau, who was a really tough opponent. and I got the third round finish in the last like 40 seconds. And
Mm.
I was covered in blood. And I remember just getting up on the cage, and people like cheer, like when you win a fight, people kind of sometimes go crazy. I was just completely calm. Like I got up on the cage and just looked at everybody and was just in complete peace.
Mhm.
And it was weird. I'd never been more happy. I got to just like go out there and perform in front of all my family who has never watched me fight. And it was just a really memorable moment. We had just a ton of support. It was just a great night, great moment.
Mhm. How do you stay motivated on your goals inside and outside of the ring?
Ooh, so well, motivation's one of those things that, man, motivation's like it's not really real because there's sometimes where you're motivated to do something, but then to me it's like
Discipline.
I know there's some guy out there that I'm gonna end up crossing paths with, and I know he's working, and
Mhm.
I got to be working, and especially with the new generation coming up. Like I'm 20, I'm 27, about to turn 28. There's these kids who are like 16, 17, 18 that are coming up, and they're good everywhere. And at some point I know I'm going to fight those guys. And so I just know with that, knowing that, I've got to be at my A game all the time. This is a job for me. It's not just for fun. This is how I'm going to make my livelihood, and I'm going to be
Mhm.
a world champ. So anybody gets in my way, they got to go.
Mhm.
So I got to be ready for all comers.
What advice would you give somebody just starting out in MMA?
I would say, I would say, work on being well rounded. Uh, put some more focus on your weaknesses. If you're a striker, go grapple some more. Go grapple more than you strike. If you're primarily more of a grappler, go strike. Go put some more emphasis on your striking. Um, work on being well rounded, and then just go compete. Go out, like whether it's jiu-jitsu competitions, point Muay Thai competitions, amateur MMA fights, like all the above. Like just go compete.
Mhm.
You got to learn how to be able to compete. That mental edge, it can only be taught through competition, in my opinion. So just go compete more.
Mhm. How does it feel fighting for Bellator?
Dude, you know what? Bellator was awesome. I loved every single bit of it. They were very professional. Um, just the whole build up to the event was great. That was really easy. Uh, the day of the fight, I felt amazing, and yeah, it felt like home. I felt very good, and they were awesome to fight for, and yeah, they were just great.
That's awesome. Where did you
Yeah,
get your name? Where did you get your nickname from, Jazzy?
yeah, I got Jazzy Jeff from my old striking coach Vince Salvador. He was one of my coaches at the arena when I was there, and he always just said you have a bit of a different pep in your step,
Mhm.
and so he just started calling me Jazzy Jeff, and it just stuck. So
Mhm.
I've kept it since.
What can you attribute being ranked number 4 in California to?
The people around me, my roots, the people the people I started with. I started over at the arena with Charles Martinez and Vince Salvador, and I was there for 8 years. All the guys there, still great, still close with a lot of them. I ended up then going over to Dan's. Um, I got married, ended up moving to Valley Center, so I started training up in Temecula and with Dan and them, and just a great group of guys. I've got some great teammates there. John Brumley, Richie Rodarte, Chase Peel, some great coaches, Dan Hendo, Tarek Safadine. Also working with Nathan Corbett, the Carnage. Um, I just feel now that like I have the best team around. Like I've came up the perfect way from where I came till now, and now I'm with the perfect team group of guys, and we're all on the same page. And Joe Stevenson, he's my head coach, and between Joe Stevenson, having my buddy Max as my manager, and then Nathan Corbett as my striking coach, I just feel that I'm I'm not going to lose for a long time.
Mhm.
It's going to be tough for anybody to beat me right now.
Yeah, for
So
sure. You got a solid
yeah,
team around you.
dude, yeah, I do. When I put up my cornermen against other people's cornermen, I'm like,
Yeah.
bro, what's up? What are you gonna do?
Mhm. Yeah, shout out John Brumley. He fights this Friday for the Epic title.
Hey, you gonna be there?
Yeah, I'm gonna be there.
All right, cool. I'll see you there. I'm gonna be in his corner.
All right. Yeah, I'll see you there.
Yeah. I don't know what corner we're in yet, but whichever corner, if we're blue or red, come hang out with us.
I will.
Yeah.
If you were to compare your fight style to a famous UFC fighter, who would you compare it to?
Oh man. Man, I wouldn't even know if I can compare it to UFC fighter. I would want to say someone like GSP, just because I feel like I'm a tactician, but then I feel like I also have a bit more of a meaner side than he does. I was thinking about the other day. I watched the Dan Hardy GSP fight where GSP could have broke his arm at any point
Mhm.
with like the 3 armbar attempts that he had, and he just didn't. And you know, I think GSP's technique and just the way he picks people apart is amazing. But he did have like he didn't wasn't like he could have been meaner at times, and I feel like I definitely have that. Um, I have to give that to probably my instincts for one, but then all my coaching between Joe Stevenson, and Nathan Corbett. Man, I feel like I'm a combination of those two guys, and just
Mhm.
pure violence. It's all the mentality's different. Um, so yeah, between Joe Stevenson and Nathan Corbett, that's how if I could combine two people, that's
Mhm.
how I feel like I am. So
If you were to have like a dream team cornerman, but only consisting of fighters, like top ranked UFC fighters, which team would you build?
the team that I already went out with my last fight.
Huh. That's an
If I
excellent
had,
answer. Yeah.
I got Dan Hendo,
Uh-huh.
Nathan Corbett, and Joe Stevenson.
Mhm.
There's not much more of a more badass
Yeah.
corner than that. I mean,
Yeah.
I really did think like I kind of sat there in the locker room for a moment, and you're kind of like you're focused on the fight, but I sat there and kind of watched as like they were interacting, and I had all the legends kind of there in the room. I'm like, man, these guys are here for me.
Mhm.
You know, they're not just in here blowing smoke up my ass. Like they're in here because I deserve to be here, and they believe in me. So like with that comes a lot of weight,
Mhm.
and I love that. I love that pressure.
Mhm. Where do you see your career within the next couple of years?
Man, I hope I said that 2023 I'd be in the UFC after I fought in Maryland when I got on the mic, and I think that's going to happen. I hope it happens. I'm just kind of waiting right now. We have a lot of things going on. I'm not going to jinx anything. I'm not going to say anything,
Mhm.
but hopefully very soon. Some point the goal is to be UFC welterweight champ. For sure. That's my only goal. Be a world champ and then to be considered one of the best to ever do it. I also want to fight in a couple different other combat sports towards the end of my career. Um, but go out on top. So it's a hefty list. So there's a lot of work to do, but I'm ready.
Yeah. I'll be there watching you along the journey.
Yeah, thank you, dude. Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
All right. I appreciate the interview. That's
Yep.
all the questions I have for you today, but I'm gonna see you on Friday.
Yeah, sounds good. If you figure any more questions, I'll definitely answer them Friday. If not, we'll just hang out Friday. I'll see you there.
All right. Sounds good. Thank
All
you.
right. All right. See you, Nicholas. All right.
Bye.
Peace.